But yeah, when is the last time we ran into each other?
Oh gosh, some
Was it then?
convention.
Was it actually the Crunchyroll? Was that Crunchyroll Expo?
Yeah, that was Crunchyroll Expo maybe, oh my goodness, 3, 4 years ago, something like that.
It was a while
Uh,
ago.
yeah, it was the first Crunchyroll Expo, and all of us, the Dream Daddy team, and you and Octopimp, all went to the Winchester Mystery House and did a tour. And Octopimp was wearing his hentai shirt. And
That's right.
I didn't realize what it was until we started getting looks. But yeah,
That's right.
yeah. But
That
I
was a
just
good time.
remember
That was a crazy experience. That whole
it
Winchester
It
house.
was. It was fascinating and a fascinating story, but I definitely remember it was just before you moved to LA
Uh
and you
huh.
were kind of on the cusp of just starting to foray into voiceover. And
Mm.
you had yeah, and then you just blew up when you got here.
Well,
It's
I
it
mean, speak for yourself. I mean,
oh
you also have been doing quite well.
thank you. It's been
Um,
a wild couple of years for us, you know?
yeah, that's true. And um, because you've been out here a while, right?
Yeah, I was actually born and raised in LA, and I did the
Oh,
whole
okay.
child actor thing. So I was
Oh,
in Barbie
gotcha.
commercials and an episode of Full House. And then I hit my sort of real awkward teens. I did a lot of theater and violin and UCLA. And then on the other side of education, I was like, nah, I want to do acting again. And so got back into all of that. And I
Mm-mm.
think, like, for you too, we kind of fell into internet things and nerdy things.
Yeah,
We kind of just fell into it. It just happened, right?
sure,
I
sure,
just I feel like there were opportunities that I was kind of getting to create for myself online that weren't happening in traditional Hollywood. It was
sure.
hard. I was getting a lot of sort of Japanese woman number 2 auditions or, and
Mm-mm.
I'm not completely fluent in Japanese, so that sort of excluded me from a lot of roles. And then, online, you can just kind of create the things that make you happy. And
True.
people responded to that. And so that started taking off at the same time that voiceover started spinning up. And it's just been such a wild ride.
When did you like you were acting since you were a kid? Did that
Yeah.
include any voiceover, or was that mainly on screen?
It was all on camera. And I always
Mm.
loved, I mean, I grew up with uh cartoons, loving cartoons and video games, but I never really considered, I knew it was a different skill set and one that would require separate training and
Mm.
quite frankly more money to, create a demo and,
Mm-hmm.
classes. And so it wasn't something that I thought to pursue until kind of I think the tipping point was probably The Last of Us 1, where I was like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, I wanna do that, specifically
Sure.
that." And then so I ended up taking voice lessons and getting a cheap mic and, just, like, pursuing it in earnest, and
Sure.
I just
When
never
was
looked
that
back.
around? Like what year?
That was God, so Last of Us came out, I think it was 20 was it 2013? Oh my god. So that
Oh
was
wow, we would have so
2013.
2013,
Oh my
2014 around then.
goodness. Yeah, around then. And I didn't really sort of, because I was still working a day job and I was still sort of doing, and then hosting happened, and I didn't really sort of, I sort of count when I started with my agents 2 years ago as when
Mm-hmm.
things really started happening, because
Yeah.
I was very fortunate to, because I sort of ran in the game developer circles. They'd be like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, you have a demo and you act, like, give me your demo. I'll put you in the casting pool."
Sure.
And just got lucky enough that way to sort of slowly build a bunch of work. And then by the end of that, I was kind of booking union work on my own, and so
Mm-hmm.
an agency was willing to take me on, and was I love A3. I love them there, and they are truly like a family and have done so much for me. And then, yeah, I sort of count 2 years ago is when I started doing it full time ish.
Mm-mm.
And you've been doing it. I mean, it was kind of the same for you.
Yeah, I was just about to say
yeah,
it's a little uncanny. I
yeah.
started professionally doing it 2014.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. 2014, and then I will say, like 2 years ago, I signed with my agency, uh,
Yeah.
and have been booking, union stuff, since then. So it's been an interesting parallel. I feel like, uh, and I won't lie, that's part of the reason why I was like, we've gotten along well in the past. I was like, I
Yeah.
it would be interesting to just have her on and just kind of like talk about that, because
Yeah.
I think we also have. I mean, you had more of an acting background as a child, which I
Mm-hmm.
didn't. The only thing I ever did was like in like school plays or something. That I never, I didn't realize I wanted to act until high school.
Oh,
High
that's
school,
interesting.
where because a friend of mine would write these radio plays, and then we would start doing them like just for fun as friends. Like we would actually record them with our shitty mics, and like
Yeah.
and he would actually edit them together, and I still have some of those recordings, and that was when I was like, oh, this is something I want to actually do, and actually fell in love with the craft. And then it was just a matter of, but how the fuck do I do that? Like how do
Yeah.
you get into that? And everything I've done from on the internet has been leading up. It was all in hopes of to get to this point. um I don't I'm and I'm sh- I don't I guess for you it's a similar thing, right? Like
Yeah.
you were like, I want to get there, and then
Yeah.
it's just a matter of how do we get there. Well, we're just gonna work towards it.
It's true. And I think that's it's so cool hearing about that, hearing, you sort of your early efforts just doing it for the love of the craft. And
Hmm.
I'd love to hear those, and especially like compared to some of your work now. It's always wonderful to hear actors' early work, because you're like, "Oh, they didn't start out brilliant. They just had to work to get there." And it's like really reassuring. Yeah, for me, it was traditional Hollywood. There are some barriers
Mm.
in place for whatever reason, for access, for networking, for being a person of color, and so in some ways we just had to create our own content. I was in a Harry Potter improv group,
Oh
and
wow.
yeah, my and that was just kind of for fun. And the coach said, "Oh, you like video games. I'm trying to create a video game YouTube channel, and we just need somebody to
Mm.
kind of read the news, essentially." And so I showed
Sure.
up, and I was like, "Oh, well, my face is associated with this, so I'm going to rewrite this copy and take over directing and producing and location scouting and all this." And
Mm.
so, that channel never really went anywhere, but that was how I met a lot of people in gaming. That was how I met Zach, who ended up becoming the showrunner for Geek and Sundry. And then years later,
Mm.
when I, visited set, he was like, "Oh, I remember your work with that other channel." Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the thing, is we just have to kind of make those opportunities. And I think there's a real bias. It's and I've seen you talk about this too, how
Sure.
our work online as sort of internet personalities
Yes.
is a bit of a double-edged sword. For sure,
Absolutely.
it puts us in a position where we have an incredible network, and people are familiar with our work that way, and we have some sort of name recognition in the realms that we want to be in.
Sure.
But I know for a fact that some people take people who are internet famous less seriously because they
Oh
didn't come up
yes.
through the traditional ways. But I remember seeing the first time I saw one of your videos on Twitter. I'm
Mm.
like, this guy's voice, and just it wasn't just the timbre and the quality. You have like a very pleasant voice, but you are an actor.
Mm.
And that people forget a lot of times that voice acting at the core of it is acting. You have to have the acting
Sure.
chops, and not just be able to do character voices.
Right.
Um, and so, yeah, for me, to my knowledge, and as far as I'm concerned, it has been nothing but sort of a blessing and a help in my sort of voice acting career. But I do know that there are a lot of YouTubers, yourself included, that, it can be a double-edged sword for.
Yeah. Oh, there's some stuff I might have to ask you after the episode.
Yeah, yes,
But
absolutely.
like I think I've been fortunate that the times I have been like it's actively hurt me are pretty few. Only a few
Yeah, that's
times.
good.
But and this is something I've talked with previous guests, like both the idea of it kind of getting in the way, which I think I'm lucky in that whenever I announce like a role, I
Hmm.
don't get the majority of people are pretty hyped about it. They're not like,
Yeah.
"Oh, it's that guy." Like no, they're and at this point I it seems pretty clear to most people that yes, I know how to act and
Yeah.
I can voice act.
It's
Um
true. It's true. There is a difference. I know a lot of celebrity stunt casting doesn't always work out for
sure.
companies because it's not that they're like bad actors. It's just sometimes
Well,
it's like a
sometimes.
different skill. Sometimes it is, but it's a very specific skill set, and you
Sure.
can't rely on facial emotions, and it's just very specific. And so, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think you have definitely proven your chops and. I don't know. I constantly have imposter syndrome, like the most
Mm.
terrible sort of
Mm.
self-doubt. But I feel like at this point, I'm getting cast based on my performances as opposed to
Mm.
like Erika is known in the games community. But also, you sort of touched on too. Your community is fantastic, and they're really lovely, and I think you've done a incredible job of sort of curating it and
Yeah.
calling out bad behavior but encouraging
Mm.
good behavior. And I feel the same for me. I was
Oh,
very, very
absolutely.
fortunate, that
Yeah.
I credit a lot Felicia Day and a lot of the early Geek and Sundry people with taking a hard line against trolls and being very welcoming to people that wanted this space. A lot of people who
Sure.
feel like misfits or that they're too weird and geeky and passionate, like saw all of us doing that and were like, oh, that's cool. Like I am cool. And
Mhm.
that's been really lovely. And they've been just so charitable and giving. You know, it's, I feel very, very fortunate.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's very important to me, like you've been saying, to I don't want like necessarily everyone to watch me or be a fan of me because
Yeah.
if you're a shithead, I don't want you to like watch my stuff or like my stuff. I don't need I'm sorry, I don't need your views or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, and
Yeah.
I think it goes even just beyond just like only like the worst of the worst. Like, I on my Twitter, I'm pretty straightforward about like, even political stuff or whatever. I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
this is how it is, and that's fine if you don't like it, but I'm not going to try to. I feel like a lot of people play the safe, for lack of a
Yeah.
better word, centrist a little bit. Just
Yeah.
very
No,
like,
absolutely.
yeah, and I have no interest in that. If you disagree with my political views, I don't have a problem with that, but I'm not going to like cater my image or my personality
Yeah.
to fit what you want necessarily.
I think that it's a privilege that I get to do that. I know a lot of other of my peers, whenever they speak up about something, especially black women, honestly, my friends who are
Mm,
black women, like they say anything and people will jump on them. So it is my privilege to be able to be forthright about my political beliefs, about being queer, about just being silly and
sure.
even like, posting some like spicy images, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are all things that would totally have gotten you blackballed back in the older days of Hollywood,
Yeah.
you know? And I was kind of raised, when I was doing more traditional on-camera stuff to be like, oh, you don't want to talk about your politics. You don't want to like disclose, your sexuality. You don't want to be too sexy. You have to sort of like cultivate an image that is, at once alluring but modest. And, you have to ride that line, as you said, being sort of palatable for the masses. But, you sort of got your start being like, I am passionate about anime. And, that was kind of considered like nerdy way back in the day.
Sure.
But just being open about who we are and our passions and being vulnerable, I think, has done a lot towards creating a community of people that we want to hang out with.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think it was what draws people to certain like people online is like if there's a sense of, oh yes, that person is genuinely just, this is who they are, instead of necessarily putting on like a persona of some kind.
Yeah. I feel lucky too that I can say something controversial or something like human rights good, and my community like responds very positively to that. And anytime like somebody, I guess, searching hashtags or whatever comes in to the replies, my community will hold their own and speak up about it, and I'm so proud to see that. And it's it's been good seeing game companies and a lot of media companies starting to do that as well.
Right. One thing I was gonna touch on, we were talking about it a little while back, and I've talked about this on the podcast before, so it'll be very brief. But like, the idea of like, the YouTube fame or whatever, does it get in the way? Or, and I think some people might like. You were saying you have like imposter syndrome of sometimes of like, oh, like, do people think I'm getting cast because of this as opposed to my actual ability? But I have been in several situations where, like, I know, like, I'm in, like, let's say, like, the final 2 or the final 3 for a role. And I know that if it was just based off, let's say, social media numbers or whatever, then I would have gotten it. And I didn't. Like, I made it that far, which means I know I'm good enough to get to that point. But it's almost like kind of like, okay, yeah, it's not just about about social media numbers. It's humbling and also kind of like reassuring. Like, yeah, that isn't gonna be enough on its own. Like the guy they picked was exactly right. I was very close, but I know for a fact. So I don't know. I can't even think of. It's usually the opposite. You have, and I've talked about this in a previous episode, but it's like, 'cause for some people, if they know, oh, this guy's a YouTube guy, it's like, okay, let's see. And then it's like
more of an uphill battle.
Yeah, you come into the booth sort of like, I'll give you like 2 takes and you'll be reassured. And I have been told by at least like a couple, like, oh yeah, I didn't want to send you the audition because I didn't know who you were. And then as soon as I heard the audition back or heard you in the booth, I was like, oh, okay. All right, never mind.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the honesty. So I have been lucky. I don't know if lucky is the right word, because I would have liked to gotten some of those roles, or like not had people have those like assumptions about me just before I came in. But hearing that stuff and experiencing that stuff, I'm like, no, yeah, I'm booking it because I got the part. Yeah. And so for you, I'm like, oh, you're definitely booking because you're good. Like, if you were bad, like, first off, you would know. I mean, I would hope you would know. I was telling this to another guest. Like, you would know if you were just dog shit at acting, right?
I mean, maybe, like, Dunning-Kruger effect, right? Like, the less you know about a thing, the more you just don't know that you don't know, I guess. But yeah, it's been good. Yeah, I kind of had that same experience sort of recently where, because, I am very close with a lot of different people on, like developers or casting people. And, I heard, I got one role like a while back, and I was like, oh, like, did I just get this because, like, I know somebody? And then I heard internally that, like, the person that I knew on the team was the one that was like, I don't know. Like, I think we can find a better fit. And the rest of the team was like, no. We want this. We want Erika. And so I was like, oh, thank God. Hey.
Well,
You know.
but hey, at least that
Yeah,
goes.
no,
Yeah,
it's
I can
true.
fucking act.
It's true. And so I was like, okay, good. And that means a lot coming from you. And God, like, sometimes I'll hear, like, Tuca and Birdie is probably
Mm,
my favorite cartoon ever now. It's
mm-mm.
just, like, I cannot say enough about it.
It's
And I'm so
great.
glad it got renewed. But, like, I remember hearing you and and I'm like, is that? And then I saw the credits and I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. Like, he's made it. Oh my God.
Yeah, and then
So
I'll see
cool.
you in like oh what was like the Marvel game. I'm like,
Oh my
wow. I'm
God,
like,
yeah, it's
so
so
there are
bonkers.
definitely like especially people. I don't say especially because I like all my
Mhm.
friends and
Yes.
like to like do well, but
Oh yeah.
there's definitely like a soft spot for me for people who started online or started voice acting started
Yeah.
with their things online, and me
Yeah.
going, yo, you booked that? Yeah, let's
You
do it.
made it.
And then also you are Asian. That's like, yeah, even there's that too. It's like,
I'm not
hey,
gonna lie, that's definitely one, like, I mean, look, you're an amazing guy and you're an amazing actor, but there is a part of me that's like, yeah, also he's Asian and like I love seeing, like, still a weird thing. And oh my God, that's a whole other discussion about
sure.
like audition, like Asians auditioning for Asian roles and being Asian
Mm-hmm.
in voiceover, where I mean, I'm sure you still get people that say, like, oh, well, it should just be whoever's right for the part, right? Especially since
Mm-hmm.
this voiceover, since it doesn't matter what you look like. And
Sure.
like, just to cover that real quick, it's that yes, absolutely, it should come down to who has the best voice for the part. But if that's true, then why historically have a lot of people of color not been able to be in the industry or play the
Mm-hmm.
roles that are supposed to be people of color? And
Yeah.
like, yeah, I look forward to the day that anybody can play anything. But for now, it's, there are times where people look at a last name and, they'll sort of wonder, oh, does this person have an accent maybe, or,
Mm-hmm.
they might not like look like the character, and that shouldn't make a difference,
Mm.
but, it kind of does. And I'm very fortunate in that my agents, number one, will put me out for anything they think I'm right for.
Mm. Mm.
They just trust me. And number two, they are okay. They know that I don't want to do Latina or Black or
Mm.
like
Mm.
Indigenous or roles for marginalized people that have
Sure.
traditionally not gotten as good as a shot as like an East Asian woman.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, but then also there's the line. It's like, am I allowed to do Korean like roles and everything as long as, I don't, the character doesn't speak Korean or it's not important to the story, or like, what point, where's the line, and
I
I
think
wonder about
it's
that.
fine. Obviously, everyone's gonna have a different opinion on that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think
Like,
it's personal comfort right now.
I think it's more. I think a lot of Asian actors are just happy to see other Asian actors doing well.
Oh
Like,
God, it's so true.
yeah,
Like, oh my God. Yeah, I think there is this sort of like no, not unofficial whisper network, because that sounds like really insidious.
Mm-hmm.
But but we all sort of really actively root for each other and
Mm.
promote each other online. Or one thing that is always remarkable and wonderful to me about the voiceover industry is that people are constantly saying, I don't know if I'm right for this. Have you met my friend so and so?
Mm.
Or like, let me recommend to you other people for this
Mm-mm.
role. And that is, acting is very competitive. It is. But for voiceover, and I don't know if you've also had this experience, but just people have been nothing but supportive.
Mm-mm. Yeah, for the most part, yeah. For
Ooh, okay. Ooh,
I
spill the
would
tea.
I would say 95%. So yes, it's a pretty good ratio.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
Which is
listen, they're gonna be shit talkers in any industry, so it's fine.
that's
um,
true. That's true.
and also, I mean, um, I might just be more of a cynic than you are. Not to paint you a certain way,
Yeah.
but
No, I'm absolutely like a optimist. Like, silver linings kind of gal.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Like no, that's I totally get that. I wish I wish I could be like that.
Aww.
But no, like again, 95%. That's a pretty good ratio.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is when you hear about, I think like everybody knows if there's like somebody that's like not great to work with
Sure.
or somebody who's like a drama llama, then like everybody knows because it's the exception and not the rule. It's a very, very small industry.
Yeah. I mean, it just comes across as if someone does have like a huge ego or is just an asshole, it's just like, why? Because everyone talks to everyone and like people will know. Like, I don't know. And I think for some people it just feels like, oh, well, I'm such top shit I can get away with it. But
yeah,
it can only go so far.
It only goes so far, especially for voiceover, because, you know, they don't see our faces. And for them, up until sort of recently, we were extremely replaceable, you know? I mean, these days it's like, you know, with voice actors being more high profile, it's a little different. But, you know, in some ways, nobody is too valuable that they won't be replaced if it's that bad, you know? Yeah. I also cannot imagine getting to that point where I was that comfortable. Every day, like every time before I start a new session, I'm like, oh God, I hope they like me.
I don't have that anymore, but I think this is not me trying to be like, look at me.
But you are confident. You've built up your self-confidence to the point where you're not scared.
It depends. Like, for example, like I for a time didn't have a lot of experience dubbing, right? So like if I went into a dubbing thing, like the first couple times, then I was like, I hope I don't fuck this up because I've never really done this before. Like. And then when I jumped in, I was like, oh, this is fun. And it's just kind of like a weird, like, not weird, but like a almost very, like, focused, you got match the lips, but maintain the emotion. Like, it's like a fun acting almost exercise.
It's a mini game. It's like a mini game. Not to, like, dismiss it, of course, but it's just like, it feels that same sort of pocket for me as music, you know? Where it's like you have to hit the rhythm of it, but then also the emotion of it, you know, and you're like working with somebody else's timing, but you still have to be lyrical about it. And it's a very tough skill set. And like anybody who does it, and like, the guys that like, you know, everybody who does it all the time is just like amazing watching them work. Because it's just they can like nail it and rhythm and still keep the emotion and
It's like playing a 3-player co-op rhythm game with you, the director, and the engineer. It's like when you nail it, you're all just like, yes, like, oh yes, and the engineer slides it in 2 seconds to the left, or 2 seconds, that'd be off, but like, you know, like, half second to the left. Oh yeah, got it. Yeah,
it's like massage it, and you see, oh God. Engineers, like, also shout out to engineers, like, now more than ever, because they're working with people with different mics and booths or, like, doing extra work. It's just, they were always the unsung heroes of voiceover, but now it's like those people are just superstars. We have media right now because of engineers.
Absolutely, yeah, like, I personally hate working from home. Because there's no engineer here. So it's like, you really, when I do record from home, it's like, oh, I miss them. I miss those engineers. They are invaluable. Now I did want to, well, before I bring up anything else, I like to give the chance to bring up a topic or ask me anything if you'd like. If not, I still have things to talk about. But if there's anything you would like to bring up or ask, if not, don't worry.
I mean, like, I feel like, you know, there's so much. Like, I totally want to, like, know everything about you. And, you know, I'm sure there are things that you've already covered on the podcast before. But, I mean, just...
Oh, I don't give a shit. Who cares about what's been covered? Yeah. I just want... Don't worry about that.
What are your sort of dream roles, you know? Like, do you want to... I know you want to... And you would be amazing in on camera, you know, like features, TV. Oh my God, I want to see you in sitcoms. But like, is it like, AAA video games or anime or movies? What's your dream projects?
I want to hear the exact same thing from you, but I'll go first.
Yeah.
You want specific like franchises or like just
No,
like in
it can be
general?
anything, like genres or franchises or mediums, you know?
Mm. It's interesting. My goal was to voice act professionally, and I've gotten to the point where that was like the dream already. Like one of
Wow.
my first union gigs was getting to do like a Cartoon Network thing, and I was like, this is something I've been dreaming about my entire life. Like, I
Wow.
is there anything that I even need to do after this? So it was like it's like a thing where I just want to keep. If I'll see these, I'll hear about like an actor like Tom Kane, for example, has been doing like 40 years, and I'm
Ooh,
like, if
yeah.
I can just have a career in voiceover that lasts that long, like I can just do the because I this is my it is my favorite thing to do. I
Yeah.
like in the world when I'm in a booth getting to act, and I like I have very little experience with live action stuff. Like the most I've done, I did a thing called Anime Crimes Division with Rocket
Yeah,
Jump.
I remember that.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
that was a whole like actual like film shoot, and that was
Hmm.
that opened me up to like okay, yeah, I would. This was so much fun and so like terrifying in its own way to like do because you gotta memorize all the line. For you, you're like,
Right.
duh. But for me, as a voiceover actor, I'm like, I gotta memorize all these lines and I gotta do stuff while I'm doing the lines. Like this
What do I
sucks.
do with my
Not this.
hands?
Yeah, like gotta think about my
What I
face.
do.
Like
Yeah.
it was so terrifying to me. And so when I was talking to Freddie before, I was like, I don't. Are you sure? Like me? I don't know. Like I guess. And he was like, trust me, I know you will do fine. And then it turned out to be like fine.
Yeah, no, like your timing is just so good. Like, yeah, I'm a fan,
Well,
man, of
well,
your on-camera work.
I appreciate it. And as far as live action goes, it's not like
Yeah.
a dream of mine, except I'm partially lying. There is one bucket list. If I get to do, I mean, listen, any acting I love to do.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I don't see myself becoming like a big live action star. That's not a dream of mine. If it's
Okay.
somehow, but I never thought I was gonna be in YouTube either, right? Who the
Right.
fuck knows at this point? But
Yeah.
okay, I will say to you, there is one live action thing that, and you kind of touched on it. Uh, if I can only be in one live action thing and that's it for the rest, it's to be a regular in a really good sitcom,
Oh.
like when I see stuff like The Office, Arrested Development,
Mm.
and see and just how much fun they're having with some of the best writing ever. That has been like a that's like a what the fuck do you call it? Why am I blanking on this? What kind of a dream that is impossible?
Yeah, the pipe
Pipe
dream?
dream, pipe
Pipe
dream.
dream?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
A dream that is hard to get. Yeah, a pipe
Yeah.
dream for sure
Yeah.
has been like, oh, if I could do that, that would be enough, and I would be satisfied. Like to be able
Yeah.
to play in that space, and because I love the camaraderie of like the like with Anime Crimes Division, everyone felt like a family. Like,
Right. Yeah,
you
the
know,
idea of being part of an ensemble.
all
Yeah.
the
Like a
crew, and
family.
it feels like summer camp. It feels
Yeah,
like
oh
you're all
God, it
together.
feels
Like
like
it's
summer
just
camp.
we're here together for like 2 weeks, and we see each other every day, and it's like kind of sad when we're done, and
Yeah.
it's just like intense bonding, and so
It is. It's
yeah.
exactly that.
Yeah,
Oh.
imagining getting to do that for like years and years and years and then be done,
Oh.
like I would be totally satisfied with that and be like, yeah, I was the guy from such and such, and uh, hopefully voiceover's still happening, but like if that's the only thing that ever happens, that's great. As far as voiceover goes, I mean, I think everyone's got like bucket list thing, and I want to
Hmm.
hear
Hmm.
yours because I
Yeah.
do want to hear yours. One dream is to be in the. I've done guest spots on anime, like cartoons. I've done recurring stuff on cartoons.
Yeah.
But I have not been in like the main cast, like every episode. Like you are part of the
Yeah.
main cast
Yeah,
of
like on the
a.
poster, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Although I did a season of Agretsuko, which was I loved that.
Oh
But
God,
I'm
yeah,
talking
yeah.
like original from the start. Like,
Yeah.
hey, you're in the cast. It's something brand new, and something like that. That to me is like definitely one. As far as just like the nerd side of me goes, like,
Yeah.
I would kill. And if you have any specifics, because I've asked this to other actors too, and
Right.
you don't have to
Yeah.
share any if you don't want to, because
Right,
I
because
also.
it's always a little scary, like putting it out there, something
It's a
specific,
Yeah, and I know sometimes some people think it's
Because
a
it's
little
like,
tacky, like, but
yeah, like, but we're not like on Twitter being like, hey,
yeah, exactly. This is
followers,
just
like to tweet at them and tell them to cast me. This is
no,
just
yeah,
like, pie
absolutely
in the
not.
sky dreams.
Pie in the sky, especially okay. I'll say,
Mm-hmm.
I if I can ever be in anything Ace Attorney, that would be a dream for me because I got my start online practicing doing dubs, like or like
Oh
not
my
even dub. It wasn't
God.
even dubs. It was just like
Yeah.
taking dialogue from like Ace Attorney games and giving them voices. So like if I can come full circle on that, I mean also I'm a
Oh.
huge fan. Other than that, um okay, I'll say it.
Yeah.
And I think I've said this before publicly. One Piece. Just get me in there. Just get
Just
me
get
in
him in
there.
there.
Just because I'm
Yeah.
a huge fan of One Piece. But don't. If you're listening to this, don't
Yeah,
tag
don't
anybody.
tweet. Don't
No, no,
don't
no.
tweet at them.
This is
It's
just
like
this
it's
is this.
considered taboo, but
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
but
This is
yeah,
just.
just know, just
Yeah,
know.
just know. Yeah. Now you don't have to be. You don't have to share any of those if you want. But I would be curious to hear just your. Because yeah, for me it's just voice acting. Do as much of it as I can
Mm-hmm.
until I'm like
Dead.
can't do it anymore. Dead
Yep.
or yeah,
For
whatever.
me,
Yeah.
yeah, I die or that's it. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
would make me stop.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, you were vulnerable and open with me, so I feel that I should also share.
Okay.
You know, it's funny because I grew up doing on camera and I still love on camera and I love God. There's a part of me that just wishes that I could live in New York and do theater, or like
Mm.
just do a summer at the Globe and do Shakespeare. I goddamn love Shakespeare. But I feel like, yeah, I'm living the dream. I
Mm.
said, like, I'd like to act in video games, and then I went and did it. Like,
Yeah.
who does that? Who says, like, I'm gonna do this thing, and then they do it? Also, another sidebar, it's so interesting because now we're getting a generation of voice actors who specifically wanted to get into voice acting and, like,
Mm-hmm.
for video games or anime or cartoons, because
Sure.
back in the day, it was more something that you discovered and fell into,
Yeah.
and like
Mm-hmm.
the current legends, sort of built that industry up,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and so it's interesting seeing people, coming into it being like, no, I want to specifically do video games because you talk to some people or and in previous generations they were like, I don't know, is considered like really low grade to do it, like it was something you
Mm-hmm.
did while you were waiting for your next TV job, but like
Right.
now it's people have realized how amazing all of these properties and these mediums are, and
Yeah.
it's getting a lot of the respect it deserves. Still could deserve more respect for the devs and people behind the
Absolutely.
scenes, absolutely.
Mm,
But
yeah.
that being said, yeah, I just feel like I'm living that dream, and specifically in voiceover, like I just love narrative. Like, to me,
Mm-hmm.
one of the reasons I wanted to get into video game voiceover was because we have a medium that was incepted and is growing in our lifetime. Like, imagine being there at the advent of cinema, right?
Sure,
And you
sure.
get to be a part of that history and tell those stories for the first time. And now it's this incredible, exciting new way of telling stories. And I wanted to be part of that. And I'm getting to, and I'm getting to tell stories that just weren't, you didn't have the ways of telling them before this. And like, I love companies that are doing that in really incredible ways, like Naughty Dog. Last of Us was what inspired me to sort of like actually give this a go.
Sure.
And I was so fortunate to get to do some additional voices, atmospheric voices, for Last of Us 2. And that for me was my full circle. I've come full circle,
Yeah.
which was bonkers. And I got to do it with one of my best friends, like Darren DePaul, like, who is I remember, like, when I was just starting out in voiceover and we were like hanging out at Geek and Sundry, and I was like, yeah, I want to do this. And he's like, oh, you're gonna do it. Like, you're gonna do it. And just, yeah, so that I would love to like get to do an incredible meaty narrative, like with Naughty Dog or Don't Nod, or like indie companies. Like, did you play Her Story by Sam Barlow at all?
No, but I've heard great things.
Oh my God, that was so incredible. And that one's an FMV, which is so unusual.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's right. I know this game. Yes.
The acting was phenomenal. And to get to tell stories in interesting new ways, and getting to tell them like face to face with other people is amazing. So mocap or FMV or group recordings. That's one thing that, like, it's so rare in video games to get to do group recordings. Normally they just give you they just give you a spreadsheet and you read down the lines and everything.
Sure.
And if you're lucky, sometimes you'll have reference or sometimes a picture, or sometimes the other actor reads first, and so you get their lines to feed to you. But a lot of times it's both what I love. It's a double-edged sword of, like, I love having to like create everything from scratch in my brain. Like, is it snowing? How far away am I from somebody? Am I walking up a hill? And I love that challenge. But then also it's like, sometimes it's just your best guess. So just,
exactly.
Love mocap. It's like doing black box theater. I just want to keep telling these stories. And yeah, on camera, I've been getting to do, like, I love my manager. My management company has been sending me out and getting me auditions for on-camera stuff that, like, I never thought, like, real dream franchises. Like,
Sure.
the dream. Like, things that I was like, I never thought. And I haven't booked them yet, but, like, it's, yeah, like, I'm still pursuing on camera, but yeah, I just love games and voiceover so much. And when I'm in the booth and it's like things are clicking and you get what they call in the pocket, it's just like, excuse me, but it is better than sex,
Oh, hell
like,
yeah.
It's just like you get this rush. It's like flow. For a lot of people, they get it when they dance or when they're like working on something and concentrating on something, and it's just really in the moment, and it's it's like a spiritual moment,
Sure.
And as for specific franchises, like the idea of originating a franchise with Naughty Dog, or a new property with Naughty Dog, or also Ace Attorney was on my list too.
Wait, really? Do you play Ace Attorney?
Oh my God. So my friend, I was supposed to one year do my best friend in high school. She dressed up as Franziska von Karma for Halloween one year, and I was supposed to do a Maya costume, but I didn't end up getting it together. I think I did Chun-Li instead. And then I had like the Steel Samurai ringtone as my ringtone for a while. Yeah, it was, and so, but it's funny because those roles all got cast before I got into voiceover, and there were some things where it's like, yeah, right, like some properties where it's like, oh man, I wish I'd been like further along in my career when that happened, but
I know.
The thing is that, and you are totally at this point too, where it's like, even if we miss out on something, and this is an extremely privileged thing to say, but it's like, there will be a next one. Like,
Yeah.
we're just starting out, and like, there's gonna be a next one, you know?
Yeah, no,
Just so
I know.
exciting.
Oh, the fact I did not know you were an Ace Attorney fan.
Oh my god,
Okay.
yes. Oh
So
my
have
god,
you
yes.
so have you played all of them?
The Edgeworth ones too, yeah, and Apollo Justice, yeah. Yeah.
Shit. Okay.
Man, I even
Good.
played, there was a Harvey Birdman game, but the same
Yes.
company, yeah. It was so good. It was so good.
I haven't played it, but I think I own it. But yeah. I heard that was fun.
Back on the Wii.
This is gonna lead into my next thing because we talked about like acting or whatever. Who cares? Let's talk about
craft.
what really matters. What kind of fucking nerdy shit are you like? Let's say so. In your free time, what if you have free time? What's your shit?
It's so weird, and I struggled with this for a while, but like I feel like I got so busy. I'm definitely now making more games than I am playing them, and that feels weird to me. That
like
feels
tabletop
so
stuff?
like I was like video games or
cool.
tabletop games. Like it's so weird because now that I do those things professionally, like I don't have as much time or outlet for doing them on my own. It's so weird.
Yeah.
Also, I'm extremely ADHD, so but I'm still I do this thing where I have not finished my Last of Us 2, and it's been 4 months. I haven't finished my Last of Us 2 playthrough because there's a part of me that doesn't want it to end. It's so good, and I'm like, I had to wait 7 years for this one. Like, what if this is all there is? I should savor it. So the weird delayed gratification thing. But yeah, just like the stories. Again, narrative games are my jam. So that or like lots of little good indie games always come out that I never have time for. Like I have Disco Elysium still in my queue, and God, yeah. So like storytelling games, and I love God, it's so funny. Like what am I watching right now too? I finally started Harley Quinn. Oh God, it's so good.
I hear great things.
Oh, it's so good. I just the writing is killer, and Harley has been a character very close to my heart for a long time. Since the animated series, I've used to cosplay Harley, and really very much identified with a lot of her sort of her issues.
Sure.
And so yeah, it's just a great take on all the characters. And Bly Manor, I just finally finished Bly Manor. Fantastic storytelling. It's so weird though, because I feel like I have. Oh God, this is so embarrassing. I've had my PS5 since launch, and I haven't had time to set it up.
Poor you.
I know. Okay,
no.
all right.
Oh no.
It's embarrassing. And I feel like under normal circumstances, I could have made time. Like back in the day, I would have fired that baby up at 5 in the morning. I don't care. But like, I don't know. We all get old eventually.
I totally get where you're coming from, because for me, video games have been replaced by board games, basically. I still play games. I still play a lot of video games. Not a lot. I play one at a time, maybe finish 3 a year, but I still play.
Right?
But board games has been my main thing. I don't. Do you play those at all?
Yeah. The thing is that I, as I said, ADHD. So it's hard for me to sit still for them a lot, but I really do enjoy them. I like Dominion, sort of deck building style, or I really like games that I can. I mean, for me, it's tabletop games or RPGs, tabletop RPGs.
Sure.
And I haven't had time again or consistent schedule to be able to do an at-home private game in almost a decade now. But I love. Do you play much D&D or tabletop
No,
RPGs?
I know
Have you ever?
it's like the rage these days, but I only have
Yeah, it's
played
the hot.
D&D once.
Oh man, I feel like you'd be so like there is no wrong way to play it, but I feel like you'd be good at it if that makes sense. Just because
No,
like
I've been
you know,
told like, oh, like
yeah.
you'd see, like I think the closest I'm getting to it is like I've been playing Divinity with a group, which has
Oh
been fun. It
yeah,
was
yeah,
just a video game, and it's
yeah,
still a video game, but we make it fun and we like kind of cheese it up a little bit. But like,
yeah. Hell yeah.
but I don't know. Like it's not like I'm not. It's not like I don't. I'm like not in or not. I'm
Yeah,
not
it's an
opposed to
investment
them, but
though.
it's like it's a thing where I'm like, it is a lot of time investment. But I
Mm-hmm.
see. I mean, my wife is really into D&D now, and she just got into it pretty recently. Like maybe several months ago, she started a
Oh.
campaign with her friend, or yeah, like her friend is DMing a campaign with her friends, and they're like really, she's like fallen deep into it, and
Oh heck yeah.
she keeps trying to get me to like play, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, it sounds fun, but I don't know.
Yeah, it is honestly.
Yeah.
It's a time commitment and an energy commitment. And, I mean, I would say if you like that, you would probably have fun just like jumping in as an NPC once in a while or something,
Mm.
and like work
Yeah.
with the DM to come up with that where you're just like, along for the ride occasionally. Yeah,
Mm.
I loved that. Like, I grew up playing them. I remember in high school in sophomore year, a friend handed me the third edition Dungeons and Dragons Player's Handbook and said, "I think you'd really like this game. It's kind of like
Mm.
acting and only with rules." And I was like, "Okay." And I read it, and it was just so much fun. And I didn't have a group to play with. That was like
Mm.
considered like the nerdiest of the nerdy
Oh yeah,
back
yeah.
then. But so I couldn't
Right.
find a group to play with me until like maybe a year or two later. But I would just keep making characters because I loved the idea of building characters in a world, and like figuring out who
Mm.
they are and what their motivations were and their backstory. Um, and I was also writing Elvish poetry at the time, so that
Mm.
all sort of factored into it.
Sure.
But yeah, and now I've been I've been fortunate enough to get to play, and tell these. It's like collaborative storytelling, and I've gotten to play with some of the best and most engaging storytellers and actors in the world, and
Mm.
that's such a gift.
Yeah.
And so there's that, but like I feel like in my free time when I do it on my own, it's just like I don't have as much time, and everybody gets
Mm.
distracted easy. So the times that I get to play are for live streams, which there's a real beauty to that as well, which I love.
Yeah. I mean,
But yeah, so
you're getting your fill. You're getting your fill. You're getting
oh
to
yeah,
play,
oh
some of
yeah,
the best
oh
tabletop.
my god, yeah,
At least from my perspective, some of the best tabletop shit. So I
yeah,
think you can
no
be rested.
complaints, no
Yeah.
complaints
No, I
here,
think you're
yeah,
like you don't have to feel bad if you're not doing it in your free time. You're doing it.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
it's fucking rad that you get to do it for an audience. Like that's super cool.
Yeah. And it's funny, I mean, you said like you only finish a couple video games a year. And yeah, I've gotten to that point, whereas I used to just like tear through games, and just spend
Mm-hmm.
hours and hours and hours playing games. I think I had like hundreds of hours logged in Witcher 3, I think. And
Mm-hmm.
just, it's so odd not doing it. But, I just feel so lucky I get to do all of this professionally.
Sure. I do think just one last thing about D&D. I think I would be more interested in actually DMing. I
Oh,
think
heck yeah.
that's what I think would, but I don't want to learn all that shit. That's the only obstacle. Like,
I would suggest, and for you and for listeners who want that experience of like storytelling, but it is like a job. It is a full-time
mm,
job, and hats off to any DMs and GMs listening. There are other systems that are a lot less sort of prep heavy. Things like
mm.
Honey Heist, or there's just like literally like a sheet of rules, like one
Ooh.
sheet where you like do it. And like Honey Heist is like where you are a bear, you're a bunch of bears on a heist, and you have two stats, which are bear and criminal, and you have to pull off a
Okay.
honey heist. And so you can tell your story a lot more free form that way, or even Dread. I was very fortunate to play to be in a show, Sagas of the Century Dread, where Ivan Van Norman, it's like you tell a horror story as the storyteller, and
Mm.
then when people want to do something and they have conversations or act out scenes, and then if they want to do something, instead of rolling a dice or looking at stats, they have to pull a block from a Jenga tower, and that is like
I've
if
heard
you're
of
the
this.
last person to pull the block from the Jenga tower before it falls, you're either dead or have gone mad. And so it's like
Ah,
replicates the feeling of being in a horror movie. And it's like low impact, but it's about storytelling, you know?
that's cool.
Yeah,
No,
there's tabletop for everybody.
I think it's probably just a matter of time till I'm sure I'll dip my toes into some sort of, because I've again a lot of friends and my wife also who are very
Yeah.
into it.
I'm
Didn't
sure you'll get bullied into playing eventually.
People don't bully me into anything. I'll just say that. But did I?
yeah.
I
Wouldn't
saw
be that
you
way.
on the cover of on one of those, right?
Oh yeah! Oh my goodness, yeah.
Which one was
for
it?
Altered Carbon. For
That's
Altered Carbon,
right.
like
That's
Ivan,
right.
who again ran Madness for me, and we've worked together for years with Geek and Sundry. He just like texted me one day and he's like, "Hey, do you want to be the cover model for the Altered Carbon RPG book?" And I was like, "What? Yeah." Whew! Yeah, and so a lot of my friends are that like, look, all my friends are sexy. Like everybody I know is just incredibly good looking,
Mm.
and so like they're like that whole book is like full of my friends,
Oh
and because all of
wow.
us just went to this like photography studio and got cyber, and he was like, just bring all your cyberpunk stuff, and we did, and it was rad.
Yeah, I remember. I believe I saw you announce it, and I was like,
Yeah.
"That's cool." I don't really know. I know kind of what that is, but then I
Right.
saw it in the. It was either in the wild or like because I'm in the board games or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I was on some website and I was like, "Oh, that's what this is. It's a game book." Okay.
Yeah,
At the time I was like, "Oh, that's cool. Like I don't know what that is." And then I was like, "Oh, it's related to kind of like a board game." And I was
Yeah,
like, "Oh,
it's like
wait,
games."
that's Erika on the cover of that." Oh. I probably
man.
sound like one of your parents or something right now. Just like, "Oh, that's cool. Isn't that interesting?"
Okay, so oh man, we've been like this like almost an hour, huh? But like, what do your parents think? What does your family think of it? Of
I
all
would
the
love to
stuff that you
know
do?
your answer to this. I'll go
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
Oh, so I mean, in terms of the voice acting or the internet stuff or
Just
everything, or what?
anything. Like, do they get it all, and do they like are they super proud of you?
Oh, I mean, they are extremely proud, even though, hey, Omani, if you're listening to this, oh, you still want me to go to law school? No. Like, so it was interesting, like, and I'm not sure if I've talked about this, at least on this podcast, but when there was a point where I told them, like, or at least, like, hey, like, I know what I want to do, and it's voice
Mhm.
acting. And I'm gonna
Wow.
go for it. And this was not at a period where it was like things were like skyrocketing or anything. Like
Right.
things were
Yeah.
going pretty good online, but still not like what it were like where I'm at now. Like,
Mhm.
but I could tell there was growth, and I could tell that there was momentum. And I think I maybe booked a couple indie games or something, and like my audience was starting to grow, and I was like, so. I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but for me, I have on the Asian parent scale.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the unspoken question here,
the
right?
unspoken. So they're not like super strict or anything. They're like, but it was more like hey, we just want to make sure that you get like a job or like blah 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 blah, that whole
Right.
thing, right? So
Right.
you ever thought about going to graduate school or going to this? And in my mind I'm like, fuck no, I know what I want to do. But there was definitely like a pressure of like, hey, are you gonna like quote unquote get a real job? Because they didn't
Right,
know
yeah.
anything about what I was doing. Like I was working, I had another job,
Yeah.
but all the online stuff and even the voice acting stuff, I kind of kept a secret. I was like,
Wow.
I don't until I like, I guess, quote unquote, make it. I wasn't.
Right.
I was like, I'm just gonna work on this and see, and even though this is exactly what I want to do.
Yeah.
And there was also like at the time I was like, I'm sure you also experienced this years of like, am I ever gonna fucking make is this ever gonna happen?
Oh my God, yeah.
Like,
what was your day job, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh yeah, sure. I was English as a second language tutor.
Oh, great. Yeah, I know a lot
So
of
I
people
worked
who
with
do that.
a lot of, especially a lot of Korean kids of a wide age range, and so that was what I was doing that for years on the
Right, and
side.
then you were finally ready to kind of tell your parents that, and just sort of, that's a big step though, kind of admitting, saying it out loud,
Yeah, no, I remember. I still very distinctly remember the night. I was like, I think maybe I don't remember what brought it up, but I was like, okay, so I explained to them, I have like an audience. This is what I want to do with my life. I know I want to voice act, and I think it's going somewhere. Like, if I'm being frank, if it was just like zero momentum, maybe I would have given up. But because I could see that there was actually growth, even if it was small, even if it was, little by little, I was like, okay, it is going somewhere. Even though I can't like be like, hey guys, I'm, supporting myself with it. At the time I was not, but I was like, but I sat down with them and I was like, so this is what it is. This is my dream, and there is actual progress I can tell. And then, very unexpectedly, I think my mom was kind of like, okay. But my dad, who, again, my mom is very supportive, but I'm teasing. But like my dad, this really surprised me and touched me, where he was like, is this something that like 20, 30 years from now, you would look back and go, I wish I had gone for it? And I said, yes. And he said, then you should go for it. And I was not expecting that answer at all. It meant a lot to me. And I'm lucky. A lot of parents are going to be like, no, you're going to go to fucking graduate school. Like, and again, my mom was still like, okay, well,
but they did.
Just
they
so
just
you
wanted
know.
you to be happy.
No, of course. God. That's the thing. And listen, my parents are, they immigrated here. And I understand 100%. It's like they worked their asses off. They just want me to have a good life, right? Yeah. A good, life, and not have to worry about myself. So I could not begrudge them for like what they want, like where they were put, but they didn't know. To be fair, I didn't bring it up. They had no idea I wanted to do any of this. And so I give a lot of credit to them for, supporting me. And then I think maybe a year or two later, maybe like a year later or two, I don't know. But anyway, YouTube started to take off, and that was very unexpected. It happened, no joke, the evening of Christmas Eve at like close to midnight.
Whoa!
Yeah,
it was
like
a Christmas miracle.
It was literally, I was like, whoa! I'm getting like a lot of views for some reason. This is very weird. At the time, I had I don't know, like maybe 20K subscribers or something.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't know, something like that.
Respectable, but like
respectable, but like like
not
this is not, you're not living off of this.
Yeah.
And then I noticed that like the numbers are going up. Like, wait, for me, I never thought I would ever hit 100K. To me, 100K was like, that's impossible. How can anybody do that ever? That's not a number that exists. Yeah, that's not a number that exists. And so I watched these numbers go up, and I was like, what?
What was it? Do you know why? Like, or what video was it?
It was the video. I don't know how familiar you are with my stuff, but there's a video where I'm singing "Take on Me," and for some reason, it just went, quote unquote, I must have been on Reddit or something, or people just start. It was not even a new video. It was, I think, up for like a couple months, I think, but then it just started taking off. And to be fair, at this point, I had like, Tumblr and Vine. I had pretty decent audiences on there. But you don't make fucking jack shit on those websites. Yeah. But YouTube, I was like, oh, like an audience is growing, and I have no idea what's happening, but it's starting to grow. Like, and I had a YouTube channel for like 10 years or whatever, just slowly putting stuff on there. And I was like, okay, well, this is a fluke. And then I was like, well, I guess I'll go back. I'll try with YouTube, I guess. And
Wow.
then like things started to take off, and then it was like, oh, like I can quit my job like just off YouTube. That was maybe 2016 or something. And then it just kind of snowballed, and again, like YouTube was just this weird accident. I think Santa, I guess, just was like, I feel bad for this guy. There you go. Like,
Have
and
a
it just
YouTube career.
you have a YouTube girl. I was like, thanks. And then I was like, shit. Well, all right. Now that I can support myself this way, now I'm gonna go even harder for the voiceover. Have I told you about the live action thing I was almost in?
Yes, I
Okay,
actually
okay,
was
okay.
the one who asked you about it because I
Uh,
knew somebody who was like, "Oh, I suggested someone for this," and I was like, "Really? Oh my god, that would be amazing!" And so I think I
oh,
asked you about it, and
interesting. Okay, I have
God,
not
yeah.
said. I don't think I've said publicly what it was because I don't know if I.
No,
But
which like
anyway,
I'm devastated that you were not that it
uh,
was not you, but you were so
I'll,
close.
it was. I'll talk to you about it afterwards. But
Yeah,
like,
we can talk after.
and I've referenced like this thing that whatever, and so it was like I almost got that, and then I was like, well, I was prepared to basically move to LA just for
Yeah,
this, and so I
yeah, I remember that.
talked to
That
my
was
wife, and I was like, well, where are we? I This is something I know I've been wanting to do, and touching back on something we've talked about, like I keep seeing these things that keep getting cast, and I'm like, I wish I
yep,
was there. I wish I was there. So I'm
yep.
like, well, I think it's. And then she was like, because she's an artist, and she was like, yeah, I think it's time. So we like basically spent the next year prepping for that, and then like very fortunately enough, this was after I decided to move. I was like, I'm gonna move, and we were making preparations,
Hmm.
and then out of nowhere, my current agent emails me like, hey, you want to like have a meeting with CAA? And I was like, I was like, okay, this is not gonna go anywhere. And then I was expecting to like have to like do a song and dance, be like, please think that I'm worth anything. But they were
Right
like,
now, but they were
but then
auditioning for you at that point.
I
And
got
they
into
were,
the meeting with them, and they were like, oh no, we want you. We're
yeah.
good. Yeah, what do you want to do? And I was like, what the fuck is going on here? And then I was, but I give a lot of credit to my agent Peter for he was pretty new to the company. I think he had only recently started
Wow.
working there, but he was familiar with me, knew what I like saw my stuff. He's like, this kid's got something or whatever. And then
Yeah.
like he took a chance. Like he was like, I don't know, I can't promise you anything, but I can set up a meeting. After we'd had like a conversation about like, what are your aspirations? Like, what do you want to do? Like, it was like an hour long, like just phone
Wow.
call with
Yeah.
him.
Wow.
And then I was like, I want to do voiceover. This is what I want to do, that sort of thing. And then, so I mean, after that, I was like, well, I'm definitely moving now, because and it was
Yeah.
also around that time that I booked OKKO, which is the Cartoon Network thing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I flew out for that.
Oh my goodness.
I flew to LA to record that, and then I was like, well, I can't do this. I cannot fly back and forth for this kind
Yeah.
of shit. So it's like, all right, like a couple things happened in a row, and I was like, all right, yeah, let's do it. And it worked out.
Yeah, the thing
It worked out.
is that like, and people, like if you hear any sort of like one of those points,
Mm-hmm.
it's like it sounds like a Cinderella story, but it's kind
Mm.
of not. It's that's you had, as you said, like a YouTube channel for 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
and you've been
Mm-hmm.
making your own content, that's hard and time consuming, and like while working a day job. And when you had the meeting with CAA, like you had your stuff ready, you had your goals laid out, you had
Mm-hmm.
like the acting chops, from doing all of your stuff on your own. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just I again, yeah, so one of the imposter syndrome things is because like, the people in my immediate world were like legends,
Mm.
and I was like, well, I'm just a baby starting out. I'm just a little baby.
Sure.
But they gave me the time of day. And like you said, like your agent, they took chances on me. And, you
Mm-mm.
know, I remember Rob Paulson put me on his podcast, Talking Tunes,
I
because
remember
we
that. Yeah.
ran into each other in the hallway at, Geek and Sundry Nerdist. And,
Mm-hmm.
and he, like, listened to my demo and was like, oh, okay, like, this is what my agent says, and, I just, like,
Mm.
completely unprompted, but and I was like, "Hey, I'm nobody, I'm nobody, and like I am just starting out." He's like, "No, I want people to see what it's like, like as a young woman in voiceover starting out, like." And he was so kind, and he sort of allayed those fears, and he said something like, you know. Luck is where, or that success is where luck meets preparation,
Yeah.
because he was like, well, yeah, like we just happened to sort of meet each other in the hallways here, but you had a demo to hand me, and
Mm.
and I'm like, okay, yeah, no, that's okay. So I'm always grateful to him and to agents and friends and just people who took a chance on me. And it's great hearing your story. Like, your story is so great, and it's like, it is. It's
Well,
just this
well,
perfect storm
yeah. Two
that you
things.
prepared for.
Yeah. What you?
Mhm.
I was just about to bring up that same quote, but yeah, like I will say, that all that was preceded by 4 years of me. I graduated from college 2012 and went, I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna do. I want to do voice
Yeah.
acting. How the fuck?
Yeah.
So I started from zero.
Yeah.
I nobody knew who the fuck I was, and I it was 2012 to like 2015. That was just 3 years of grind, pure grind. I
Yeah.
don't know if I've told you what I did in that period. Have I?
No.
I started
When
a
you're
voice
saying,
acting Tumblr, and I posted one
oh,
audio post a day for 3 years
wow.
because I was like, and I had no, and I've brought this up on the podcast, but I had no followers. Nobody knew who I was. It was just like my friends, like 5 people followed me. And I was like, all I know is that I want to do this, and I'm just going to practice and get to that point. Like and in the beginning I was dog shit. Like, I
Of
was
course,
not good at
everybody
all.
starts out like
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
I was absolutely terrible. No, I was pretty bad. And so those like 3 years, that was like locking myself in the hyperbolic time chamber from Dragon Ball Z,
Yeah.
and just like,
Yeah.
and obviously I could have, if I had access to it, classes would have been faster. But
Right.
this
Yeah.
was almost like my own like self-teaching, like I'm going to learn to be good at this just by doing it literally. And I mean, I'm talking every day. I'm not
Every
exaggerating.
day.
Holidays.
That's
I was like,
incredible.
I did something every day, and I give a lot of credit to like there are creators who like had audiences. Like I would do like dubs of their webcomic. Like
Mhm.
Lackadaisy was a comic I loved.
I
And I still,
I freaked out because you don't understand. Like, I
yeah.
read Lackadaisy like back in
Yeah.
high school, and
Mhm.
I just was like obsessed with it. And I love the art style. I was like, boy, I would give anything for this to be an animation. Like, and I'd love to be part of it.
Mhm.
And then they like come out with like the Kickstarter, and I was like, oh my god. And Sungwon's in it. Oh my god, he's the perfect casting for that character. Ah, I love
That's one
Lackadaisy.
of those crazy full circle
Amazing.
things where I did Lackadaisy dubs in like 2013 or something
No
just as a fan.
kidding.
And so
Wow.
Tracy reblogged them, and that was a big help for my like getting any audience at all. Like she
Incredible.
was very very like kind enough to like share that stuff. And in Mordecai, I did very like they're still on YouTube. I did Mordecai
Oh my
fan dubs.
god.
I did all the male characters, but I did all of them. And then for the Lackadaisy movie, I get an email from the director, and they were like, "Hey, yeah, are you like interested? Because like Tracy says that you are like what she envisions the character sounding like." And I'm like,
Oh.
what? Like, it was, and this was like, what, like this year, last year, and I was like, this is the craziest shit to like 20, like, I would credit Lackadaisy dubs as like what helped me get anywhere, and then being told by the creator, oh, you are the person, your voice for that character is what she envisioned. Like, it was very surreal.
Wow. Like, I'm tearing up, like, thinking about this. It's amazing.
So, again, I wanted to say, I really wanted to be like, yeah, listen, like, for people listening to this, that was like 4 years of me working my ass off and lying. And Anne-Marie, my wife, can attest to this. Just like us lying in bed and me like staring at the ceiling and go, am I wasting my time? Like, should I maybe I really should just give up. Like, I don't know if this is ever going to take off at all. And then like, and another point I'm about to make before I ask you one last thing is, oh yeah, preparation. Like, if I had, let's say I had like become like a viral star or something in 2012, or like really young, and I had been and then I had been asked to like, hey, do you want to audition or do you want to come in for something?
I know, think about that too.
Oh, it would have been so bad. And they're like, this kid sucks, and good luck, kid. Like, I got my opportunities at the exact, like, I had worked to the point where I was like, I can do this. I can, even though I was nervous as fuck. Like, you know, going into my first opportunities, I was like, but I know I can do this. As opposed to if it had been like 3 years before, they would have been like, what a joke. So yeah, again, it's like you have to work your ass off to be like, oh, it's just a simple, like, for example, like same thing for you, like, oh, just Rob, you know, it's not just Rob Paulson like ran into you, but like if you were bad, like nothing would have happened. Like, you know, it's you have to be prepared and get the skill set to once the opportunity does come your way. And I tell this to a lot of people, like, hey, like, you know, you want to be a voice actor, you need to start getting good to the point where, like, if someone asks you to step in, you don't want to choke, because it will look really bad if you choke.
And like you know, we've all had our, like, you know, bad auditions and everything, and like blown opportunities, but like, you know, you prepare for the next one and you learn and everything. And for me, that sort of took the form of, a little like granular pro tip, like take improv, kids. Like, oh my God, anybody who's listening, just improv helped for voiceover, for you know, for being online and being a host, like for interviews. It just, like, it helped me listen better in real life. You know, just improv. So I mean, I did improv, and then I was at the Strasberg, the Method School, you know. So and that actually super helped with like space work and getting into character when you have nothing but a booth, you know. So yeah, like, and just my hat is off to you, sir. The idea of like doing, you know, your 10,000 hours. Like, you did your 10,000 hours on your own, you know, without any help. And you wanted it so badly. You just worked so hard for it. That just makes me even like more happy and weirdly proud, you know, just that you're doing it.
I appreciate that. And I feel like I took up way too much time on my end. I want to know the same question back to you about your parents, because I am actually very curious.
Right. That's what I started.
How did they? I mean, I guess you had acting experience as a child, but I would like to know your experience with your parents.
Okay, so get ready for me to take up some time. I actually come from a entertainment family. So my grandpa, before World War II, and he was interned, he worked at Disney as an animator.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so on Fantasia, on Dumbo. Then he worked at UPA, like Mr. Magoo and Gerald McBoing Boing kind of stuff. He's the Chris ISHII that did the animated sequence in Annie Hall.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so, he did that. And then my dad was a camera assistant. My dad was, early acceptance MIT, then he dropped out to do philosophy, and then he ended up, he was a camera assistant. He worked on Star Trek Voyager when I was growing up, Lois and Clark, just tons of stuff. And my mom was an editor. They met, she used to roll with George Lucas and the boys up in Marin
Wow.
County, and like, so, like they, were a Hollywood family. And so when I showed sort of like signs of being really extroverted when I was younger, they were like, oh, maybe she would enjoy acting. I played pretend all the time, and I made up voices for my dolls. And so they put me into acting to see if I liked it. And I booked like half of what I went out for, because I just was this, outgoing, charismatic kid.
Sure.
And so I was so lucky that they supported me every step of the way. And when I was like, I kind of don't want to do this anymore, like, it became a lot, because I was also doing violin, and we moved a little further away from the city. So, it was just a lot. And I was not feeling myself, because, ugly duckling teen. But, and they were like, okay, you don't want to do it anymore, that's fine. We will support you in what you want to do.
Sure.
And that is so rare. And yeah, honestly, it is kind of rare for a lot of, Asian American parents to, not to be stereotypical, but yeah, the sort of whole idea of they are immigrants and they worked super hard and they just want their child to have a better life. But my parents, I mean, I'm fourth generation Japanese American, and during World War II, they had to get super American. I'm part Chinese and Indian too, but that's like, I didn't know that side as well. But I was very fortunate to have extremely supportive parents. And when I went back to acting, after graduating from UCLA, I had full support, from my family. And I just now, and also same with being online. Like my mom, I don't know, she, still has some trouble, but she was subscribed to my Twitch channel,
Wow.
And she like would donate for my charity streams, I think she was like Pokemama, was her handle.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is like, so wonderful and rare. And, she would have to try to explain to her friends what I did, and like she'd be like, well, she like plays video games. And then like when I started voice acting, they'd be like, oh, do we know her from anything? And I'm like, eventually I was like, Mom, just tell them I do Fortnite. Tell them I play Fortnite professionally. And they'd be like, oh, okay, I understand. And then now that I'm actually in Fortnite, it's like she's able to say like Fortnite, and they're like, oh,
yeah. Your kids probably play as her.
yeah. So I just have been so fortunate in that way. And yeah, like in some ways, they wanted me, like we value education very highly in my family. But, my mom dropped out of Stanford to start working in the film industry. And, my dad sort of dropped out of higher education to work in the film industry. And so, like they were like, well, go through college and do what you want to do, but just have a sort of something safe too, and so it's funny, it's almost in the opposite direction. Like when I saw that Aquafina was gonna be hosting the SNL, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get a text from my mom, god damn it. And she texts and she's like, you could have been the first Asian in 20 years to host SNL. Like, you're just as good as her. Like, I believe in you, which sounds like amazing, but also I'm like, oh man, I don't want to disappoint Mom. And she's not disappointed, but I'm just like, oh, she's so supportive. God damn it.
That's great.
Although it would be fun, maybe years from now when I have an incredible like A-list Hollywood career, we can pretend that like she, overcame her prejudices against me in the entertainment industry and make for some real good like cosmopolitan interviews, right?
Sure.
Yeah, and acting as so after I graduated from UCLA, talk about grind. For like 4 years afterwards, I was like working odd jobs. I worked as like a temp for a tax agency, which was terrifying and hellish. I worked at catering where we would work like 16-hour days. And then we'd like go out and do karaoke, sleep a couple hours, and then go do it again during busy season. I worked at like I just did so many different odd jobs, like taught violin. I, did tutoring. I just did whatever I could. I auditioned. I decided wanted to do drama graduate school. I auditioned for 10 schools and got into none of them. So anybody else who gets discouraged about those kinds of things, that don't worry, it can also work out for you. And yeah, it was like kind of a dark time of the soul, I had those
Yes.
nights lying awake, and I lived with my mom for a while after that, for 4 years after college, being like, what am I doing? Like, am I making any headway? But at the same time, I was still taking classes, they were very expensive classes.
Sure.
I did them, and I was meeting people in the industry where I wanted to work. Kind of by accident, though, actually. That was more like we all kind of cosplayed and went to the same parties together.
Well, that's still valid.
It's still, yeah. And so, there was a long grind of maybe 6 years or something. I was working at catering, crazy hours, like saving up a lot of money. And, this is actually something I don't know that I've talked about. And it's, something I think that is actually important for people to hear, that and to sort of admit, is that when I was at catering, my partner that I was living with at the time, he said, like, I will let you stay here at my house, like, rent free, for a year while you're pursuing acting. And
okay.
If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, but you could have tried it. And there's a part of me that hated doing that, because I've always been very independent and financially independent and everything.
Sure.
And I didn't want to be like, reliant on anybody. But, I was like, well, I've saved up a lot of money and I've been at this grind for a long time. And I already, like you, is that like, there was some progress, I had already started doing, like, extra YouTube stuff, and I had already sort of like started down that path and done my classes, and landed an agent who ultimately was terrible, but I had done the grind on my own. And I was like, okay, if I pass up this opportunity, I'll always regret it. I know. And so I did. And before the year was up, I was working with Geek and Sundry, and hosting started paying my bills. And then voiceover started happening. And, and then I got too busy with voiceover to do a lot of hosting and RPG stuff anymore. And it just all snowballed. And there were so many little steps along the way of like, somebody ended up, putting me in the casting pool for this, or, I ended up going to this workshop, or, this one agent took a chance on me. All the little breaks along the way, and I could point to any one of them and be like, well, yeah, that was kind of just luck. And, same with having a support. Like, some people have had parents, support them financially, or, some sort of help. And I did. And, that is a privilege. I was so privileged starting out, having the support of my parent, like having the moral support of my family, being in Los Angeles already, having a partner that, meant I didn't have to worry about rent. Like, I'm extremely privileged for all of that. But, I remember the grind of worrying, like, do I deserve all of this? Did I, did I earn this, actually? Am I any good at all? And I think it's taken me a while to sort of crawl out of them, to be like, no, I worked for this. Like, I remember, just like one time I took a non-union job, and I did 800 lines in one day.
Wow.
Of voice, of like call-outs, like battle chatter call-outs,
God.
Yeah, so it's like 6 hours, something like 6 or 7 hours of that, and we just like knocked it all out. And, I mean, to give you a frame of reference, I mean, it's like, no, nowadays, with union stuff, I'm like, I don't know, because it's like 2 to 4 hours or something a day, and they have like a limit on how many lines you can do, and I was just like, no, I want this so bad, and so I did that, and I have like hundreds and hundreds of gigs of failed auditions on my computer, and I keep them all sort of to go back and hear where I came from, and it's kind of wild to know.
If you mind, or I hope you don't mind if I ask, how old are you?
I'm 34.
Okay, and when did
how old are you?
I am 29. And
oh my God, you're a baby!
When did you?
Oh wait,
graduate?
no, I'm not 34. I'm 33. Oh God, I'm 33. I'm 34 next year.
Okay, got it.
Okay, yeah.
And when did you graduate?
2009, yeah.
Okay, I just feel like there's a lot of parallels, because for me, like, I also like lived at home after college for like
you
several
did.
years because I had to save money, right?
Yeah.
Like, I had to save money. I saved money just from my other job for like, years and years and years, and then I moved out. So I'm just listening to a lot of the stuff you're saying, and I was like, man, I was just like, it'd be funny if we were just doing this at the exact same time.
I love this.
But it's similar. It's pretty close, like a pretty close time frame, and like, wow, yeah. No, I think I feel a kinship here.
Kindred,
of like,
you are a kindred spirit,
Yeah, absolutely.
In like our goals and our dreams and our paths. It is so wild, because I always felt like a little bit of an outsider in that regard, because a lot of, my peers or people, that are just ahead of it, like a generation ahead of me, all sort of came from, they did like a, drama school background, or like, were actors, and then, came up through there, and then came up through the ranks in voiceover, and then found internet fame, and I just felt, I just like, I would occasionally worry like, oh man, I did it backwards, right? But
I know exactly how you feel. Yeah.
Yeah. But then I was like, oh, wait, you did that. Like, and you have reached that certain level where you're like, what, in this town, it is so small. And as we said, like, everybody talks, and, once you're kind of in, you're in. And so now people know you as an actor for sure. No matter, where your origin is. And everybody, like, I've interviewed so many voice actors, and a lot of them, got their start, they came here to be in a band, or they did musical theater, or other kinds of theater, or TV, and they fell into this, or child actors, or, everybody kind of had a different origin story for voiceover. Because there's not, to my knowledge, there's still not any sort of like college programs or drama programs that specialize in it, which there should.
There should.
And people would want that, I'm sure. But oh my gosh, that's so bonkers. Like, and hearing your story, and just like how hard you worked, and it's just, I don't know. In some ways it feels validating for me,
This is validating for me as well to hear your story. So we're co-validation. That's
yay.
I have one final question, and that is favorite Ace Attorney character.
Oh God, that's hard. I think I really love Franziska von Karma. Like,
that's a good choice.
Maybe it's just because, like, I don't know, I kind of have a thing for her. I mean, I did. Like, look, everybody's really young, but I was also very young when I was playing.
Hey, she is 18, I believe, and older, so it's fine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just like, she's so great. Like, I don't know. I love her aesthetic, and oh, she's so cool. There's always they call it the bisexual dilemma. I was like, do I want to be that person or be with that person? It's great, and I just like, everybody's so genuine. The writing is so good in that game. Ugh, yeah. Who's yours?
Edgeworth. I love Edgeworth.
Oh my God, yes. He's such a dork. I love him. He's such like a secret dork. Ah.
Oh man. Well, This has been great. I thank you so much for taking the time. Like feel like this was like almost therapeutic in some ways.
It
Like
was. It was. I feel like we have so much more to talk about. We should probably do this not even on a podcast. Like,
I know, right?
we should
Yeah.
just like try and hang out. Like, this was great. Yeah, this did feel like therapy.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me
Of
on.
course. Where can people find you?
I'm at Erika ISHII on Twitter, ErikaISHII, and the Erika ISHII on Instagram. Oh my gosh! Like, and I mean, I just remember, like, normally everything's under NDA, but I got permission to say that I'm in Cyberpunk 2077.
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah, that's
it's
great.
Ruth Zeng and a couple of other characters, and it's like that's out next week, which is like, oh my god! We've been waiting for this for so long.
That's great.
Yeah, it's just good. Yeah, I'm on Twitter a lot. Thank you so much. This was fantastic.
Thank you. This has been great.